Welcome to Cold War. New game, new camo tracker, you know it. Let's go through the weapon challenges, some tips on how to best approach the camo grind, and then I'll explain my new Google Sheet tracker that you can, of course, make a copy of in the description. First, a quick overview of the challenges. You may already be familiar. It's similar to Modern Warfare, where you level up a weapon to unlock types of challenges, but in general, it's a much easier version, with fewer challenges, 7 down from 10, also lower requirement numbers, and simpler challenges that I think flow with most people's playstyles better than crouching and mounting, for example. Plus, there are 10 fewer guns at launch this year. That part's not a positive, but this is a camo system you could really fly through if you were determined. Being done with it too fast is maybe not a positive either, but thankfully there's more to do after the camo. There is a sharpshooter weapon challenge, which may require a few more kills, and then there's a full separate set of challenges and camos for zombies, which is awesome. You can go there to chase this classic Black Ops 3 style dark matter, and you can use the camos you get in either mode, and I assume in Warzone as well next month. Very cool. To focus in on the challenges I think are the most annoying, like what are the biggest roadblocks to be aware of early? Well, there's not much, but it's gotta be the launchers again this time around, because we've got 23 kill streaks. Would have been easy in Modern Warfare, but that's rough with this slow aiming, slow reloading thing that's also very weak. You'll need the Danger Close wildcard to spawn with max reserve ammo. I think I'll be waiting for a small map to do that, and most likely in hardcore as well. But the radius sucks too, not just the damage, so it still isn't easy. If you want to rush it before Nuketown, or any potential change or buff, then Godspeed. Same thing for the 25 double kills. That seems like a normal launcher challenge, but for this one, yeah, ouch. Then there's also 50 ground streaks, or vehicles, which set off some alarm bells. At least there isn't a javelin, you won't be meleeing sentry guns, but you still don't want to be waiting for 50 enemy sentry guns to pop up. And you gotta have engineer on basically at all times to find this stuff easily. Thankfully, because of the score streak system I don't like, I've already been seeing more sentry guns than I expected, but that may only be because it's an early unlock. The RCXD could be another saving grace, but with the new system, I think not many people will be running it outside of care packages. It does also say ground vehicles, which I assume means stuff like the bikes and snowmobiles in combined arms, although I don't see those used much outside of the very start of the round. I need to rank up my launcher to 15 to do more testing on if the enemy needs to be on it, or if you can sort of cheese it on any ground vehicles that spawn on the enemy side or something, then this will be a breeze. Otherwise, might take a while. Might want to rush launcher level 15 to be ready for any ground streaks. Finally, I hope not a hard challenge, but surely one people will ask about, kills on enemies who are taking cover. I may end up doing more research on this too, but it's not like challenges can be tested in private match. So just going off what people are saying who have more playtime than me, it seems like this is maybe just calculated based on how much of the enemy is exposed to you, which seems weird and not very concrete. Like at first I thought it might be a poorly worded way of saying get kills penetrating through a surface, but nope, this seems to complete itself over time. I've seen some people with golds who didn't find it annoying. I hope it isn't terrible, because there wouldn't be a great way to hunt for this, other than always peeking main windows and cover spots where you expect enemies to be. Yeah, I think you should not worry about that one and hope it happens, but if needed I may try to look into it more. Now for some general tips and advice for approaching this camo grind. One thing we sort of touched on there is running a launcher secondary basically all the time. You don't want to leave it to the end and only need to destroy stuff with launchers. You can focus on the camos of whatever your primary weapon is, even if that's a pistol or shotgun, you can use Lawbreaker, and have that launcher on your back at all times until they're done, for the passive progress whenever streaks come up, because that's really not in your control. It's especially good to be ready for whenever a ground streak comes up. Launchers are way better done passively. Except for those 3 kill streaks, of course, you'll want to actively focus on those. Earlier, I mentioned maybe waiting for good old Nuketown to drop soon for those launchers. Well, the other thing I think I'll try is working on my guns until they have the final challenge unlocked, and then leaving it and moving on to the next gun. Reason being, that final challenge is double kills. I know small maps make everything faster and easier, but any type of multi-kill gets the most benefit from that. Also, hardcore, especially this year with the higher time to kill, will be a huge help with any multi-kill challenge. So you could try that, unlocking all the double kills and waiting to use them on a hardcore small map. Next, in thinking about weapon prestiging, which I'm fairly sure is in the game because it showed in the beta, being able to prestige to get your clan tag on the gun. Guess I actually haven't seen it in the full game yet, but assuming it's a thing, this might be the first year I don't prestige my weapons until after dark matter. Normally I'm all about efficiency and can't stand the feeling of wasting XP, but in this case, dark matter isn't a massive grind. The weapon leveling is maybe the biggest part, and attachments can make a big difference in this game. I don't want to be prestiging weapons early and losing them. And I don't feel like it's XP waste this time, because because after the camo's done, there are those sharpshooter challenges, if those didn't complete themselves, and there are all the zombies camos and challenges, and I think that's when I'll be prestiging my weapons, because I'm really not worried about having attachments in zombies. For multiplayer, you may want to consider waiting on weapon prestiging, depending on what your goals are, of course. You may not want to prestige them at all. On a similar note, another tip with the cross progression, some weapons, like a pistol you hate or something that sucks without attachments, might be easier to rank up in zombies. Go and pack a bunch of that thing and get some levels. Even if the multiplayer camos are your main goal, remember the weapon level is shared, so it could be smart. This is an early video to get that tracker sheet out there, so I don't have all the details on how the XP compares, but it isn't bad, and I do plan to look into that next. I definitely want to compare zombies to multiplayer. Next, as always, it makes sense to use the best guns first. Whatever people decide is the main OP thing, whatever people are complaining about, you may as well get your camos for that, since they may get nerfed, while the weaker things could get buffed up. It may be fun to get the hard stuff out of the way first, but it makes sense to use the strong things while they're strong. Finally, it's a very basic thing that I brought up before. I bet some people will recommend hardcore mode to help with the grind. It's always been the recommendation for quick headshot challenges, and headshots aren't really a limiting factor this year, but the same thought applies for just getting faster kills with fewer people surviving and getting away. But the hardcore streak goes both ways. You kill fast and also get killed fast. So if you hate hardcore or you find you don't do very well there, then don't, obviously. Play whatever mode you enjoy playing. I think saying one specific game mode is the best way to grind camos is kinda dumb. Could maybe argue for the craziness of combined arms on Cartel, but aside from when there's a small map playlist, you can make progress wherever you like. Alright, now on to the tracker sheet to explain what's new and how it works. Everyone loves a good spreadsheet. The link is below to make a copy of it to your Google Drive. If it says you need to request access, you did it wrong. Just be logged into a Google account and click the link to make a copy for yourself that you can then edit. I will keep the template updated with new stuff throughout the year, maybe making changes or fixes over time, and that same link down below will always lead to the most up-to-date version there is. If you ever want to see the most updated version for any reason, you can save that link or you can come back to this video. So this will be a familiar sight if you used the Modern Warfare tracker. The idea is that I've written out all the challenges and you can copy and paste this checkmark around when you've completed a challenge. So that when you're in game, you can refer to this and at one glance know if you still need more long shots or 5 kill streaks. It would be fun to use the actual checkboxes, but knowing what the challenge is kind of the point. And copy and pasting is fun too. These challenges are more passive than Modern Warfare's, so I'd say it's less important. You could just let the game track it for you, but it's also undeniably satisfying to be checking things off and easily see how much you've done. Thank you to Blanksy for being level 55 and letting me know the RPG and M79 challenges. I am not a high rank, I've been working on this. I also added a couple fancier features, like when you check off all 7 challenges, it'll update to show that you have gold for that gun. So do not paste anything in this column or that'll break. When you check off all the base weapons, that'll update to diamond. And if I go through and check off everything here, it'll go dark matter. How fun. The DLC weapons are treated separately. First of all, they don't exist yet. I've left some open spaces. But if you check these off, it will show gold or your highest camo achieved. So if you have dark matter unlocked through completing the base guns, you'll get it right away. Same thing for already having diamond, and getting DLC golds will not help you get dark matter, because that is how it has traditionally worked. If I find out it works differently in this game, like if you can do a DLC gun instead of a base gun to get dark matter, or if a DLC gun comes out and it relocks your dark matter until you do the new gun, then I'll need to correct how this works. This total percentage tracker over here is still basic though. It just counts the total number of checkmarks in this entire area and divides by the number of challenges. I saw no reason for it to be overcomplicated. This mastery column is what you should be using to track your dark matter progress. This is just a generic tracker for how much you've done. Personally, I like that it overflows past 100 for doing DLC gun challenges, but if you prefer, you could change this 29, being the number of guns, every time they add more to keep it capped at 100%. You could also change the D2 to B2 and the 7 to 9 if you wanted to be checking off the weapon level and sharpshooter columns as well, instead of it only tracking camos. I think I might do that personally. If you look at the bottom, there is a tab for the zombies camos as well, just all the same thing, but with the different challenges. And I thought about a third tab for these mastery challenges, but they were kind of already covered by what I had here. This column was originally max prestige for the weapon, but I swapped that to the number of mastery kills to have it all here. Max prestige seemed like a pointless column, especially because it's shared between MP and zombies. It seemed dumb. I'm just going to put a check mark over the max level whenever a gun is completely maxed out. Feel free to add or change whatever you want though. That's the point of it. It's a template. I know some people came up with cool additions to the Modern Warfare one. Knock yourself out. I believe in keeping it simple for the most part. This is everything I want in a camo tracker for myself. Like, I thought about going further with the conditional formatting. One example being for the color of the challenge text, where you could write your weapon level in here, and then when you were level 5 and then 10, for example, it would make the unlocked challenges go from gray to solid black to show they were unlocked and ready to be worked on. Like, that wouldn't have been hard, but I figured it was better to just write the unlocked levels in with the category, because who wants to be writing their current weapon levels in here all the time? You don't want to be updating your spreadsheet more than actually playing the game. Plus, the unlocked levels are basically all the same. Primaries get the last camo at 50, secondaries at 30. Anyway, I will keep updating this sheet with the basic stuff, the new weapons, and fixes if I spot a problem, and you can feel free to add any other features you like. The reason I never did any of that fun conditional color formatting for Modern Warfare was I thought simple as possible was best. I know from the questions I get, lots of people are totally lost when it comes to updating the sheet for new guns or whatever, and I keep the template updated, but then you'd have to make a new copy and copy your stuff over, so having multiple regions and formulas just made more things that could break, and can also take a lot of time to adjust, which gets annoying because they add guns fairly frequently. So in Modern Warfare, I just used that one big region that updated itself when you added more lines, the downside being it didn't discriminate between normal guns and DLC guns for the Damascus % progress. This time, to make it work, I decided to leave all those DLC gun blank spaces, 4 for ARs and SMGs, 3 for the rest, so it's a little ugly, but that's the trade-off to allow for fancy formatting and easy updating. Well, there's the tracker for Cold War. I wanted to change up the colors and make a cool dark theme, but that would have been annoying for anyone who already uses a dark browser theme, so never mind that. Keeping it classic. Oh, and I know this challenge category is psychedelic in-game. I figured I should spell it correctly anyway so that fewer people would yell at me. To wrap up with a few thoughts on the weapon grind, I'm a fan of this. The camo system is similar to last year, but that was one of the few things I was okay with in Modern Warfare. It is pretty far on the easier side, which I'm sure is a positive for some, like if you just want dark matter because it looks cool, then the easier the better. Or for people who can't play the game very much, this is a much more attainable goal. I think that's great for those people. For me, I think the amount of effort it takes to earn it is equal to the value that it has. I think the highest camo in the game should really display you went through something, and I'm worried it'll be too fast, especially considering double weapon XP. I think I'd have a bigger problem with it though, if not for there thankfully being other stuff to do. I know there's the weapon mastery sharpshooter, although those aren't big numbers. It seems like you'd almost certainly do that while ranking it up and getting the camos. And I don't see multiple tiers of this sharpshooter challenge like the hunter one, so I assume 500 is it. But then there's also the whole thing for zombies too, which I think is really fun. My only fear is that for the biggest multiplayer grinders, they could blow through all this pretty quickly, so I think they could have left the camo the same. I'm cool with it being more accessible, but then they could have afforded to make these mastery objectives much higher, like around 2,500 kills maybe, because at 500, and then the other requirements being max level and get the camos, it seems almost entirely redundant with the camo grind, whereas I think it should have been the next step after the camo grind as a really long-term thing. I don't think people would really miss out on these emblems being harder. I'm sure the camo is what most people go for, so that makes a lot more sense to me. Anyway, I totally see myself going through all this stuff. Not quickly, I'm definitely not racing. I like taking my time, but this is looking like a good weapon grind system. And I love that I get to say that, because it feels like I've been putting a negative spin on everything for the past year. And this may shock you, but I actually don't like sounding like a whiny bitch about things I know aren't that important. Well, plenty more to talk about in this game challenge-wise, and I'll be looking more into XP. I just wanted to get the tracker out there because I've already got people asking for it. It is a yearly tradition. Good luck on your grinds. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.